Zach, and there is the next one. I am once again out here on the Belaya, and this time with a float. Completely relaxed, fishing for brown trout. Yes, really, really nice. I had seen it on Discord. Das Frechen posted a nice contribution there, and did quite a bit of fishing here on the Belaya. A few different positions, not exactly the same spot where I'm standing right now, but on the Belaya you can catch something pretty much everywhere anyway. Along these 11 meters of gravel path that this spot has. So here you can basically throw your bait in anywhere, and you constantly have fish on the hook, so completely easy. I have of course been testing here for quite a while now. I started during the night, and during the night I first tested the whole thing at 1 meter depth, nice and a little further down, and I also tested different distances. Yes, and right now I have to say, casting really nicely far out, I would estimate about 15 to 20 meters. That seems to be working really well at the moment. So here it is, Zach and the next one. Too bad, unfortunately not hooked. Right now the bigger brown trout are moving in here, so over 2 kilograms even. And of course that is really sexy. Those we're obviously happy to take. And now in the morning hours I moved a little higher up, so it is still relatively cool, and we already have sunshine. So I set the whole thing here again to about 60 centimeters depth, and that seems to be working quite well. Now of course the big critical point is always, can you actually hook the trout here? Can you manage to set the hook at the right moment? That is why I'm standing here right now, only with my mid-game Bolognese rod. So the Bolognese rod from the video, What to Buy from Level 20. In that video, it is nicely explained step by step how to handle float fishing properly. And with this setup here, you can manage really well, and above all, for a long time. And with this one rod, you can also make really good silver here on the Belaya. Yes, I do not even let the float drift that far. If it goes too far for me, like it was already back there again, then I simply pull the whole thing back in here and just cast out again. So always casting nicely here in the direction of the big rock, throwing it out as far as possible. Like I said, that should be roughly 20 meters, and then of course letting it sink a little. Always make sure that not too much line lies on the water surface. That is super important so that you have a higher probability that the hook actually sets properly, so that we can hook the fish quickly. Because if we first have a lot of line lying on the water surface, and the entire line still has to be reeled in together with the hook set, then it simply takes too long. And that's a very important point. We have to be fast here. So when the float shoots downward, immediately set the hook as hard as possible, because that hook effect, Zach, again not hooked, because the hook effect when fishing with the Bolognese rod is actually not that good. That is a huge difference later when you have the match rod. I could simply stand here with the match rod and I would have absolutely no problems with hooking anymore. That would work much easier, much better. But like I said, I also like to show it here with the Bolognese rod. Yes, that one was hooked a little sideways. I think that works quite well too. What do we have here now? Well, look at that. The next European grayling. Of course, we gladly take that one as well. And on we go. Yes, and in terms of frequency, this is of course really practical. You can see it here within just a few minutes, one fish after another. And if you also hook every one of them properly, Zach, yes, then of course it becomes even more pleasant. And look here, this huge advantage of the Bolognese rods. They are simply so long. And that means the smaller fish do not really have any chance to fight. Because the Bolognese rod is so long, the fish is basically lifted up like by a crane. Whoa there. And even if not hooked well, it is pulled straight upward and has no chance to escape. That also makes the fight a lot easier. By the way, the whole thing is also explained again in the complete tutorial about Bolognese fishing here on this water. Definitely take a look at it. How to fish with a float here on the Belaya. Now in this case, like I said, I'm simply fishing very basic. I am also not using double bait. That is something you could already do, of course. Right now, I am simply fishing with Dung Beetle with a size 1 hook, a 7.4 kilogram fluorocarbon leader, of course. And with that, things get started really well here at this spot. Yes, and theoretically, you could test many more spots. In the post from Das Frechen, for example, the spot up here was quite active. Otherwise, you can actually just walk every 5 meters a little further along here, just like at this spot now. Simply test, cast out, and try. And of course, always pay attention to what the current weather situation is. Is it cloudy right now, or is there sunshine? How warm is it at the moment? And accordingly, vary the depth a little. So simply make the bait a bit deeper if you have the impression that nothing works. Or of course, also raise the bait a bit higher. Just play around with it. For the start, it actually makes sense to simply begin with 1 meter depth. So just set the whole thing to 1 meter, cast out as far as possible, let it drift nicely. And if you then get the impression that it does not work, then you simply look at the temperature again and adjust the setup accordingly. For me, it has just become a bit warmer, but it is also cloudy now. The sun has completely disappeared. So now I'm simply testing again, from 60 centimeters back to 1 meter depth. And then we will fish again right here at the same spot. So we cast out again, exactly the same way, and then we will see whether the fish might now stand a little deeper, because the situation has changed. And that is exactly the important testing when float fishing. We constantly have to bring variation into it during the course of the day, always vary depending on the current weather situation. And we always have to watch which spots are active right now. So which spots where our bait drifts through, which spots at the different depth levels are currently active. Zach, and there goes one in, and unfortunately not hooked, but that was already a good sign. So at about 1 meter depth, roughly back there was at least an area where something took the bait. Nevertheless, I will simply cast again here in front, and then we try it again, let it sink nicely. And like I said, always make sure there is not too much line on the surface, and then maybe you also have to concentrate a little. That is why it is actually not bad to stand here with only 1 rod at first. Later, when you are really skilled and know how it works, you can of course also do this with 2 or 3 rods. However, that works much better with the match rod. And if nothing happens here, simply walk a few meters further. So 2 casts, no result. That means I will now test this spot here. First cast a little less far, afterwards maybe cast a bit further again. But this place here also works quite well again and again when spinning. I regularly catch them here when spin fishing during the Friday competition tournament. So every Friday in the live stream there is the competition fishing here on the Belaya. And this spot here, right in this shade, in this reflection, that is where it works quite well, again and again with the brown trout. That is why I'm testing it here once more. It is still cloudy, we still have 15 degrees, and so far nothing has worked here. That means I am varying things again now. I am going a little deeper, simply to about 1.5 meters depth. But I'm also casting a bit further out again, and then I will just see whether the fish might now be holding even deeper. At night, you can also continue fishing consistently. The first fish here, they were all during the night, and the brown trout is also active during the night. So you do not have to do anything different at all. You only have to make sure that during the night, you perhaps set the bait a little deeper, because then the fish also like to stay close to the bottom. Well, there goes something small again. Yes, in the meantime, I have already cast out 5 more times, trying again and again and again. You may not always see that, because of course I cut that out of the video, but I also constantly have to test and try. That is simply part of it for me as well. Always testing, always trying things out. The last fish just now, for example, was at about 1.2 meters depth and again cast a bit further out. It is getting continuously warmer now. Still, we do not have sunshine here. It remains cloudy. So right now I'm trying to cast even further and also fish a little deeper again. However, I'm also still searching for the second grayling version here, the Arctic one. I would also like to catch that one, and for that I might change the bait once more, to the cricket. The setup is still relatively simple here. The 7 kilogram fluorocarbon leader, a size 1 hook, simply 1 meter depth. And now it is of course also time to test different baits. Although I have to say the Dung Beetle works really well again and again. That is definitely a solid bait, especially if you're targeting brown trout here. And it also works regularly quite well, even if you use the bait solo without a double bait. And of course the nice thing is that the brown trout also brings quite good silver. Although you have to say the entire fishing here on the Belaya is already really worthwhile for silver. Here you can actually fish very nicely with the float, or of course also do spin fishing. So fishing on the Belaya is always worth it, especially if there are also cafe orders available at the same time. Yes, I have now walked once from the top all the way down, and that is exactly how you can do it. Cast out again and again, throw 2 or 3 casts, and test. If nothing works, move on. Simply walk further. I always cast here in the direction of the rock wall. In this area, you regularly catch brown trout, chub, or also grayling. So simply come back here to the Belaya, search for the fish, and see where something is working. Like I said, usually you will always find fish somewhere here. And of course, you can also just stand here with very simple rods. That is also already explained in the basic tutorial for fishing on the Belaya. In terms of silver, this is of course extremely attractive. If you look at the brown trout here, and you find a spot where you catch them regularly, then you can make really good silver here. Plus, of course, also the cafe orders. That means I now still need 1 more brown trout, and it should be a really nice big one. Then I already get 135 silver extra, so I'm going back to the first spot and will continue testing there again, because that is where the largest brown trout was. If you liked all of this, leave a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. And then we will see each other in one of the next videos or in the next live stream. Until then, tight line.